When Larimore Blackwell pointed a loaded gun at a woman placing flowers in a remote Oregon cemetery, he thought he had the upper hand. The desperate fugitive, with a $2 million bounty on his head, saw only an isolated target who could help him escape the FBI closing in. What he failed to recognize in those crucial moments was that he had just made the worst mistake of his life. 4 seconds was all it took for his world to completely change. In the misty dawn among the silent headstones, sometimes the most dangerous person is the one who remains perfectly calm when they should be terrified. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If this story of hidden strength resonates with you, consider subscribing for more moments where justice arrives in unexpected forms. The mist clung to the headstones of Evergreen Heights Cemetery like reluctant ghosts, unwilling to depart as dawn broke over the Oregon mountains. Safine Adler knelt before a military grave, her movements precise and economical as she arranged white lilies against the gray marble. Nothing in her simple civilian attire indicated anything remarkable about the 45-year-old woman with steel-gray eyes. Thaddeus Wyndham paused his raking nearby, respectfully distant. In 30 years as groundskeeper, he had learned to recognize those who came to have conversations with the dead. This woman came monthly, always alone, always at dawn, always with the same deliberate calm. The Ambrose family strolled 2 rows over, their hushed voices carrying in the morning stillness as they visited their grandmother's resting place. Mr. Ambrose kept a protective hand on his teenage son's shoulder while his wife adjusted flowers in a bronze vase. None of them noticed the shadow that moved between the mausoleums until it solidified into a man with a gaunt face, unshaven, with a distinctive raven tattoo crawling up his neck. Larimore Blackwell had spent 3 nights hiding in the cemetery's oldest crypt, evading the manhunt that had followed his escape from a prisoner transport. The $2 million bounty on his head made sleep impossible and desperation inevitable. His eyes narrowed when he spotted Safine alone, isolated, perfect. Thaddeus saw him first, the rake freezing mid-stroke. Then the Ambrose boy gasped, alerting his parents who pulled him protectively close. Safine noticed too, a subtle shift in her posture, the only indication as she continued arranging flowers, her back to the approaching fugitive. "Do not move," Larimore's voice cracked from thirst. "Nobody needs to die here today." Safine turned slowly, her expression composed as she faced the .45 caliber handgun pointed at her chest. Something flickered behind her eyes, not fear, but assessment. "Wallet, keys, phone, now." Larimore's hand trembled slightly. "The authorities are looking for you, Mr. Blackwell," Safine said evenly, using his name with calm certainty. Confusion crossed his face. "How did you know who I am?" "Your face has been on every screen in 3 states, she replied, her voice steady. "You should put the weapon down before this escalates." Larimore laughed bitterly. "Lady, this escalated 3 days ago. Now give me your keys." In the distance, almost imperceptible, came the sound of vehicles approaching on the cemetery's gravel drive. Thaddeus caught Safine's eye and mouthed, "Run." She gave him the slightest headshake in response. "Sir," she addressed Larimore with unexpected formality, "I understand you feel cornered, but this is not a situation you can shoot your way out of." Her composed analysis only aggravated him further. "Be quiet and give me the keys. I am not going back to a cell." The Ambrose father tried to shield his family, drawing Larimore's attention momentarily. The gun swung toward them. "Everyone stays exactly where they are," Larimore growled. Safine shifted her weight almost imperceptibly, placing herself between the fugitive and the family. "Your vehicle," she said calmly. "Where is it?" "Do not play stupid with me," Larimore snapped. "I need your car." Safine nodded once. "The blue sedan by the east gate. Keys are in my right jacket pocket." Mrs. Ambrose was silently crying now, her arms wrapped around her son who stared at the scene with wide, terrified eyes. "You!" Larimore gestured toward Thaddeus with the gun. "Old man, come over here, slow." Thaddeus, his weathered hands shaking, began moving toward them. His eyes darted between Safine and Larimore, uncertain which one frightened him more. There was something in the woman's calm that seemed almost predatory. "We can walk to my car together," Safine offered. "No one needs to get hurt." Laramore's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Why are you so helpful? Because I want to live, she replied simply. And I believe you do too. His laugh was harsh, devoid of humor. You have no idea what I want. You want freedom, Safine said quietly. But there are different kinds of cages, Mr. Blackwell. The sound of vehicles was more distinct now. Laramore's head snapped toward the entrance, panic flaring in his eyes. Who did you tell? He demanded, advancing on Safine. Who knows I am here? I have told no one, she said, standing her ground. But that sounds like law enforcement. 4 black SUVs pulled through the cemetery gates, still distant but unmistakable. Laramore grabbed Safine's arm, yanking her closer, the gun pressed against her ribs. You are coming with me, he hissed. Anyone follows, I will put a bullet in her. Thaddeus had reached them now, his old eyes apologetic as he looked at Safine. Miss, I am so sorry. It is all right, Thaddeus, she replied, with such certainty that both men stared at her. Everything will be fine. Laramore tightened his grip. The keys, now. With careful, deliberate movements, Safine reached into her pocket. The motion caused her jacket to shift, momentarily revealing a glimpse of a faded scar on her collarbone, the kind that came from shrapnel or bullet grazing. Take them, she said, offering the keys palm up. As Laramore reached for them, Safine's gaze drifted beyond him to where the first agents were now visible among the headstones, weapons drawn but not yet in range. They will shoot you before you reach the gate, she said matter-of-factly. Not if I have you, Laramore countered, snatching the keys. Walk. The boy, Safine nodded toward the Ambrose family. Let me send him with his parents to safety first, a sign of good faith. Laramore hesitated, then gestured with the gun. Fine, make it quick. Safine turned to the family. Sir, please take your wife and son behind the mausoleum. Stay low. Stay quiet. Something in her tone brooked no argument. Mr. Ambrose nodded sharply and began moving his family away, his son casting one last wide-eyed look at Safine. Your stance is military, Laramore observed suddenly, his eyes narrowing. What are you? Safine met his gaze steadily. Just someone visiting a grave. You are lying, he said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. About which part? She asked. The approaching agents were close enough now that Laramore could see them clearly. His grip on Safine's arm tightened painfully. Time to go, he growled, beginning to drag her toward the east gate. Safine moved with him, but her steps were measured, controlled. She scanned the area with methodical precision, noting the positions of each agent, the distance to cover, Laramore's increasingly erratic breathing. You would be better off surrendering, she said quietly. And spend the rest of my life in a cage, Laramore snarled. I would rather die. Those are not your only options, Safine countered. A voice called out from behind a large marble monument. Federal agents, Laramore Blackwell, put down your weapon. Laramore froze, then spun, pulling Safine around as a shield, the gun now pressed to her temple. Stay back, he shouted. I will kill her. The agents halted their advance, weapons trained but unwilling to risk the hostage. The lead agent, a tall man with close-cropped salt and pepper hair, stepped slightly forward. Mr. Blackwell, I am Special Agent Quillen Rhodes, he called. Let us talk this through. No one needs to get hurt today. Safine's eyes met Rhodes's across the distance. Something passed between them, a silent communication that confused the agent until she gave an almost imperceptible nod. Last chance, she whispered to Laramore, so quietly only he could hear. Surrender now, and you walk away from this alive. Shut up, he hissed against her ear. Safine sighed, a sound not of fear, but of resignation. Wrong choice. 4 black SUVs had pulled silently through the cemetery gates, their occupants deploying with practiced efficiency. Special Agent Quillen Rhodes took position behind a large memorial angel, binoculars trained on the standoff 50 yards away. Female civilian, approximately 40s, potential hostage situation, he reported into his radio. Blackwell is armed, agitated, 3 additional civilians present, family with adolescent, plus elderly male, likely staff. Agents Zephyr, Octavia, and Fiorello spread out, establishing a perimeter while staying hidden among the monuments. their weapons drawn but lowered. "Negotiation or tactical approach, sir?" Agent Octavia whispered, her dark eyes never leaving the scene ahead. Rhodes considered for a moment. "Negotiation first. We have a civilian in the crossfire." Back at the gravesite, Laramore's desperation was escalating. "You think I will not do it?" he snarled at Safine, who remained unnaturally calm. "I have got nothing left to lose." "Your sidearm," Safine noted with a precision that seemed odd coming from a civilian. "Smith & Wesson M&P, 14-round capacity if it is the 9mm. Laramore blinked, momentarily thrown. "What?" "I am just curious," she continued conversationally, as though discussing the weather rather than the weapon aimed at her. "That model has a trigger safety. Is it engaged?" For a heartbeat, Laramore glanced down at his weapon, a millisecond of uncertainty that spoke volumes to the woman watching him. Through Safine's mind flashed fragmented images. Hands assembling a rifle blindfolded, a medal ceremony with applause, ocean water closing over her head during training. She pushed them aside, focusing on the present threat. "Lady, you are either crazy or stupid," Laramore said, regaining his composure, "and I do not care which." The Ambrose boy whimpered from their position behind a nearby monument, drawing another threatening wave of Laramore's gun. "The weapon makes you feel in control," Safine observed quietly. "I understand that, but right now, you have options that do not end with more charges or bloodshed." Laramore's laugh was hollow. "What do you know about control? About being cornered? You are just some—" "Movement at your six," Safine interrupted, using military terminology unconsciously. Laramore spun, spotting Agent Rhodes advancing between tombstones. "Federal agents," Rhodes called out. "Laramore Blackwell, drop your weapon." Panic flooded Laramore's features. In one fluid motion, he grabbed Safine, pulling her against him with the gun pressed to her temple. "Back off," he shouted. "I will kill her. I swear I will." The agents froze, weapons trained but unwilling to risk the hostage. "Hostage negotiation protocol, sir?" Agent Octavia whispered to Rhodes. Rhodes began the standard approach. "Mr. Blackwell, let us talk this through. No one needs to get hurt today." Throughout this exchange, Safine remained impossibly composed. Her eyes met Rhodes across the distance, and something passed between them. A silent communication that confused the agent until she gave an almost imperceptible nod. "We need to clear your path to the gate," Safine said calmly to Laramore. "These agents will back off if you make reasonable demands." Laramore's breathing was ragged against her ear. "Tell them to throw down their weapons." "That is not reasonable," she replied. "But they might allow one agent to bring a vehicle closer, a show of cooperation." From his position, Rhodes watched the exchange with growing curiosity. The woman's composure was extraordinary, her body language controlled in a way that tickled at his professional awareness. "Agent Rhodes," Safine called out, her voice carrying clearly across the cemetery. "My name is Safine Adler. Mr. Blackwell is requesting a vehicle for safe passage." Rhodes narrowed his eyes. The name tugged at his memory, but he could not place it. "Ms. Adler, we will do everything we can to resolve this peacefully," he responded, playing along while signaling Agent Fiorello to circle around behind. "I am a reasonable man," Laramore shouted, his voice betraying his escalating panic. "I just want out of here. Bring a car to the east gate, keys in the ignition. Once I am clear, I will release her." Safine subtly shifted her weight, dropping her center of gravity by fractions. The movement was so minimal that Laramore did not notice, but Rhodes did. His training recognized the precursor to a countermove. "Sir," Agent Zephyr whispered urgently, "that woman, the way she is standing, she is not just a civilian." Rhodes nodded almost imperceptibly. "I know." "Mr. Blackwell," Rhodes called out, "I need you to lower your weapon first. Then we can discuss transportation." Laramore's grip tightened painfully on Safine's arm. "Do you think I am stupid? Lower my weapon so you can shoot me?" "They will not shoot if you surrender," Safine said quietly. "Agent Rhodes, what is the protocol for peaceful surrender in this situation?" That phrasing, the specific terminology. Rhodes felt recognition creeping closer, like a name on the tip of his tongue. "Full immunity is not possible," Rhodes replied carefully, "but cooperation now will significantly impact sentencing considerations." Laramore growled in frustration. This is getting us nowhere. Safine turned her head slightly, her mouth closer to Laramore's ear. When was the last time you slept, Mr. Blackwell? The non sequitur threw him. What? 3 days on the run, she observed. Your hands are trembling, pupils dilated. Adrenaline can only sustain you so long. Shut up, he hissed. Your options are narrowing, she continued, her voice eerily calm. In approximately 40 seconds, the agent to your 8 o'clock will have a clear shot at your leg. Larimore jerked his head toward the specified direction, momentarily distracted. It was the opening Safine had been creating. Her right hand moved with blinding speed, clamping down on his wrist and applying precise pressure to the radial nerve. The sensation was like lightning shooting up his arm, his fingers involuntarily spasming. Simultaneously, her left elbow delivered a targeted strike to his solar plexus, forcing the air from his lungs. Before he could recover, she had twisted, breaking his grip and redirecting the weapon upward. The gun discharged once, the bullet harmlessly entering the sky. A fluid hip rotation brought Safine behind Larimore, where she applied a joint lock that sent him to his knees, howling in pain. The weapon was now secure in her hand, and with practiced movements, she ejected the magazine and cleared the chamber in one motion, 4 seconds from start to finish. The agent stood frozen, weapons still raised but expressions stunned. Safine had positioned herself between them and Larimore, preventing any potential shots. Secure but do not harm the suspect, she called out, her voice carrying the unmistakable ring of command. Agent Rhodes lowered his weapon slowly, recognition finally dawning in his eyes. He approached with measured steps, signaling the other agents to hold their positions. Commander Adler? His voice carried equal parts question and realization. Safine gave a single, confirming nod, maintaining the control hold on Larimore, who had stopped struggling, his face pressed against the damp cemetery grass. Rhodes immediately executed a perfect military salute. SEAL Team 8, Specialized Reconnaissance. You led the Samarkand extraction in '09. The other agents, understanding dawning, followed their leader's example with crisp salutes of their own. Thaddeus and the Ambrose family watched in stunned silence as the narrative they thought they understood completely inverted before their eyes. We have got him, Commander, Rhodes said with newfound respect, as Agents Zephyr and Octavia moved in to secure Larimore with handcuffs. Be careful, Safine advised as she released the fugitive to their custody. Radial nerve is sensitive. He will need medical attention for the shoulder. Larimore stared up at her, comprehension and disbelief warring on his face. Who are you? Safine did not answer him. Instead, she handed the cleared weapon to Agent Rhodes and stepped back, her posture relaxing marginally. Adler, Rhodes said, shaking his head in amazement. The file said you retired to somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, but I never expected. Is this conversation necessary, Agent Rhodes? Safine interrupted quietly. Rhodes studied her for a moment, then nodded. Of course not, Commander. My apologies. As the agents led Larimore to one of the waiting SUVs, the Ambrose family approached cautiously. The father extended his hand to Safine. Ma'am, I do not know what just happened, but thank you, he said, voice thick with emotion. My family is safe, Safine finished for him. That is what matters. The teenage boy stared at her with undisguised awe. Are you really a Navy SEAL? A faint smile touched Safine's lips. Was, she corrected gently. Now I am just a civilian. Agent Fiorello had joined Rhodes, both watching the interaction. Sir, should we include Commander Adler's intervention in the official report? Rhodes considered the question, noting the way Safine had returned to the grave she had been visiting, kneeling once more as though the entire incident had been merely an interruption. Minimal details, he decided. Civilian with military background assisted in the apprehension of the fugitive. No name necessary. Fiorello looked surprised. But sir, that was Commander Safine Adler. Her takedown technique is literally in the FBI training manual. I am aware, Agent, Rhodes replied, but I suspect she values her privacy. 30 minutes later, with Larimore safely in custody and statements being taken from the Ambrose family and Thaddeus, Rhodes approached Safine again. She stood before the military headstone, her expression unreadable. Commander, he began, then corrected himself. Ms. Adler, the Bureau will want a full statement. Safine glanced up at Rhodes, her expression neutral. I understand protocol, Agent Rhodes. I can provide what you need. Rhodes hesitated, then gestured toward the headstone. May I ask who you are visiting? Safine stepped aside, allowing him to read the inscription. LCDR Kieran Devereaux, USN, SEAL Team 8, brother, warrior, friend. Your teammate, Rhodes said quietly. My spotter, she replied. 8 operations together. He took a bullet meant for me in Samarkand. Rhodes nodded respectfully. I studied that operation at Quantico. Required reading now. A ghost of a smile touched Safine's lips. They have probably improved on our methods. You know, we teach your Samarkand techniques at Quantico now. The Adler Protocol, they call it. Safine's smile was fleeting. I am sure they have improved upon it. 22 years of service, 4 distinguished service medals, and you are still saying just doing my job, Rhodes observed. She shrugged. The job does not end with the uniform, Agent Rhodes. Your file went dark after retirement, Rhodes noted. Most decorated woman in special operations history just disappears. Some battles are fought with silence, she replied simply. Rhodes hesitated. The Bureau will want to make a statement about today. Heroic former SEAL prevents tragedy. Please do not, Safine interrupted firmly. Minimize my involvement if possible. I am just a civilian who happened to be visiting a friend. With all due respect, Commander, what you did today was extraordinary. What I did today was muscle memory, she countered. Nothing more. Agent Octavia approached, datapad in hand. Sir, we need Ms. Adler's statement for the report. Rhodes glanced at Safine, who nodded once. Let us get it over with, Agent. As Safine began giving her statement, the Ambrose family prepared to leave. The teenage boy lingered, watching her from a distance with undisguised admiration until his father gently guided him away. Thaddeus had resumed his groundskeeping duties, but his gaze kept returning to Safine with newfound respect. When their eyes met briefly, he gave her a small nod that contained volumes. Ms. Adler, Agent Octavia said, reviewing the completed statement. It says here you noticed Mr. Blackwell had not engaged the safety on his weapon. How could you tell that from where you were standing? Observation, Safine replied simply. You develop an eye for details in certain professions. Octavia looked like she wanted to press further, but Rhodes intervened. That will be sufficient, Agent. Ms. Adler has been more than cooperative. When they were alone again, Rhodes studied Safine with professional curiosity. May I ask a personal question, Commander? You may ask, she replied, her tone neutral. Why here? After everything you have seen and done, why settle in a small town where nothing happens? Safine considered the question, her gaze drifting back to Kieran's headstone. Because nothing happening is precisely the point, Agent Rhodes. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Peace. She nodded once. Something like it. From the east gate, Agent Fiorello called out, Sir, transport is ready for the suspect. Rhodes acknowledged with a wave, then turned back to Safine. I should warn you, once this gets out, the press will want interviews. Your privacy will remain intact, she finished firmly. This incident does not need my name attached to it. Rhodes hesitated. With respect, Commander, your actions today saved lives. That deserves recognition. Recognition is not why I did it, she countered. Then why did you? Safine met his gaze steadily. Because I could. Those 3 simple words hung between them, containing worlds of meaning that Rhodes, despite his years of service, could only glimpse the edges of. He nodded slowly. As you wish, Commander. We will keep your involvement minimal in the official record. Thank you, she said, the formality in her bearing softening slightly. As the agents prepared to depart with their prisoner, Larimore was led past them toward the transport vehicle. He stopped when he saw Safine, disbelief still etched on his haggard face. All this time, he said, I had a gun to the head of a Navy SEAL. Safine regarded him impassively. And now you do not. Larimore shook his head slowly. I never stood a chance, did I? There is always a chance to make better choices, Mr. Blackwell, she replied. Even now. Something in her words seemed to reach him. He dropped his gaze, allowing the agents to lead him away without further resistance. Rhodes extended his hand to Safine. It has been an honor, Commander Adler. She accepted the handshake, her grip firm and certain. Agent Rhodes. As the FBI convoy departed through the cemetery gates, Safine remained by Kieran's grave. The morning mist had burned away completely now, leaving the air clear and the mountain view crisp beyond the cemetery grounds. She knelt once more, rearranging the flowers that had been disturbed during the confrontation. "That is another one we walked away from, Kieran," she whispered, touching the cold stone. "Though I admit, it has been a while since the last one." Rising, she brushed grass from her knees and took a deep breath of the pine-scented air. The cemetery had returned to its peaceful state, as though the violence of the previous hour had never occurred. Thaddeus approached cautiously, rake in hand. "Ms. Adler, I have been tending these grounds for 30 years, and I have never seen anything like what you did today." She smiled faintly. "Let us hope you never have to again, Thaddeus." "You come here every month," he observed. "I always wondered why someone would drive so far to visit this particular grave." "He has no family left," she said simply. "Someone should remember him." Thaddeus nodded slowly. "I will make sure his stone is always kept clean, Ms. Adler. You have my word on that." "Thank you," she replied, genuine gratitude in her voice. As she walked towards the east gate where her blue sedan was parked, she passed several freshly dug graves prepared for upcoming services. The sight gave her pause, a reminder of mortality that even her extensive combat experience had never dulled. At her car, she found Agent Rhodes waiting, leaning against his government-issue SUV. "I thought you had left," she said. "One last thing," he replied, handing her a business card. "If you ever decide retirement is not for you, the Bureau has a place for someone with your skill set." Safine accepted the card with a small smile. "I have a good life here, Agent Rhodes." "A quiet life," he noted. "After decades of the alternative, quiet has its appeal." Rhodes nodded. "Fair enough, but the offer stands." As she drove away from Evergreen Heights Cemetery, Safine glanced in her rearview mirror. Several agents who had stayed behind to complete the scene processing stood at attention near their vehicles, a gesture of respect that touched her more deeply than she had expected. Thaddeus, cleaning up nearby, simply nodded with profound respect as her car passed through the gates. The mountain road unwound before her, leading back to the small cabin she had called home for the past 6 years. A place where neighbors knew her only as the quiet woman who taught wilderness survival courses at the community center and occasionally volunteered with search and rescue operations. The cabin came into view as she rounded the final bend, its simple lines and weathered porch a welcome sight. 6 years of peace, interrupted by today's events. Yet as she parked and made her way to the front door, Safine realized she felt more herself than she had in a long time. Inside, she hung her jacket on the hook by the door, revealing the faded SEAL Team 8 tattoo on her forearm, usually kept covered. Her living room walls were bare of commendations or medals, those remnants of her former life stored away in a footlocker under her bed. The only visible connection to her past was a single photograph on the mantel, showing a younger Safine with her arm around Kieran Devereaux, both in desert camouflage, dusty and grinning against a backdrop of mountains. She touched the frame lightly, then moved to the window that overlooked the valley below. From here, she could see the town where she now lived her quiet life, distant and small from this elevation. A life chosen deliberately, where extraordinary capabilities remained hidden until circumstances demanded otherwise. Tomorrow, she would return to teaching local teens how to read topographical maps and build emergency shelters. Tomorrow, she would be just Safine Adler, retired military, specific branch unmentioned. Tomorrow, the events at the cemetery would be just a brief news item about a fugitive's capture. But today, for a few crucial moments, she had been Commander Adler again, and somewhere, she knew, Kieran would be smiling at that. Have you ever known someone who never asked for recognition but deserved more than anyone else? Someone whose greatest strength was not in what they could do, but in their choice of when to do it.